Hello and welcome, my name is Parky and today we're going to be doing another Spore Let's Create of something from Rick and Morty, one of my favourite characters and what should be your favourite character as well. Woo-wee! I'm Mr Poopy Butthole! Oh yeah! Right, so we're going to be creating Mr Poopy Butthole, who is actually a character that exists as part of the family, a long-term family friend. Apparently Beth can't remember, which is very sad. But what we're going to do is straight away, again, luckily enough, Mr Poopy Butthole has a fantastic figure to make. He is literally just a big worm sort of shape. He's a perfect straight line as well, which makes things very easy. He doesn't have any hips either. He is literally just a poopy butthole little worm type creature. And we're going to make him really thin, because that's all it takes. Okay. So I think this is probably quite good. Let's see if we can straighten up the spine a little bit more. Because at the moment he's sort of got like a bit of a ridge in here. I guess it does sort of make sense. He would have a chestal region. A chestal region, also known as an abdomen. That seems pretty good to me. Okay, that's probably the easiest and quickest body creation we've ever done. But hey, that's what you get for doing Rick and Morty character. So now we're going to go on to his face. I think this is probably okay. Most of his body is pretty much his head, and the rest is his small body. He has a very small body, poor Mr. Poopy Butthole. Right, so for the eyes, I think what we're going to do is, again, we've got the very wide, round eyes. It's not going to be anything too detailed. So I'm thinking we go for something like these again, the oculus. We seem to use these for all of our creations in our Rick and Morty Spore Creations playlist. Mr. Poopy Butthole. Okay, and we're going to do something like that. He has very big eyes again, and they sort of both face forward, something like this. And that seems good. He's got a bit more of a forehead actually, so let's move those down a little bit and see if we can rotate them inwards. I don't want to cover up the little bit of sort of eye rim in the middle. The eye rim! All the medical terms here today. Okay, and in fact I think I am actually going to extend this one higher up and make this bigger, just so he's got a bit more of a forehead. Cool, okay, that seems good to me. And then for his nose, he's got a very standard looking nose, so we're going to go for one of these, what are these called? I swear I use these in every single episode. The mantenna, okay, fine. So I always use these mantenna as noses, because I think they look fantastic for the purpose. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, maybe something like that. I think that looks pretty good. It does start actually a little bit lower down, something like this. And I suppose if we make it a little bit shorter. Yeah, okay, I think that seems good. Right, so what we are actually doing today is we're going to take this all the way through to Civilization stage. Because they have top hats in Civilization stage, which is exactly what we need from Mr. Poopy Butthole. He dons a fanciful top hat in every episode. It's his defining characteristic, one might say. So this now goes on to the mouths. Now the mouths are going to be kind of difficult because Mr. Poopy Butthole doesn't really have much of a mouth, and unfortunately all the mouths in Spore kind of completely, they stick out like this, which is really weird and slightly distressing. I think we want to go for something maybe like this. I would imagine that Mr. Poopy Butthole, he has teeth that aren't particularly unhumanoid. Is that a word? Unhumanoid? Probably not. Okay, we're going to go for something a little bit like this, make it a little bit wider, and then maybe rotate it down like so. I think that's pretty much as close as you're going to get, unfortunately. If we move this up a little bit more so the mouth is sort of slightly more underneath the nose area, I guess that's as close as we're going to get. Cool, okay, let's now do the arms and the legs. Now his arms and legs, again, in classic cartoon style, are just sort of like rounded like this. They do start sort of fairly low down on him. Maybe something like this. That seems good. Yeah, sure. Okay, and we're going to make them really thin. Something like this. Yeah, actually, looking at the picture, there's no defining features of his arms whatsoever. He's in a very sassy pose of Mr. Poopy Butthole with his hands on his hips, which I'm going to try and replicate. As we know, though, in Spore, when you try and put things like the wrists close to the main body, it just stops you for some reason. So maybe what we'll do instead is put him in some sort of like sassy pose where one arm is sort of sticking up like this. Maybe he can wave. Let's wave at all of his adoring fans. Oh yeah, okay. Perfect. And then for his legs we're going to do pretty much the same thing. So we're going to go for the Brawnosaurus once again. And they do literally just come straight off the bottom of his body. Something like that. He's got no hip joints, that's what I'm saying. Okay, again, very thin at the legs. We're going to put him in his typical sassy pose, which is one leg out this way, something like this. Yeah, okay, and then the other one we're going to asymmetrically put down a bit more forward, actually, like so, and then bring this up. Perfect. Oh yeah, okay, seems good. And then for his hands, now Mr Poopy Butthole, he has very humanoid hands, which is kind of helpful for us because it makes it very easy for us to choose which set of these we're going to use. Okay, so I think this is good. Mr Poopy Butt hands. I'm not really sure what he would use these tiny, tiny man hands for, but you can use your imagination. It's fine. And for his feet, he's got the sort of atypical, sort of generic-looking shoes. So I'm going to imagine that Mr Poopy Butthole inside those shoes has very humanoid feet as well that are very little. If he's got humanoid hands, I would imagine that the same goes for his feet. Okay, something like this. I think that seems good. This is a good general structure for his body, isn't it? We're going to go for all of the clothing in the Civilization outfitter, so just bear with me for now. We've got to imagine him without. Right, so let's go into the colouring menu. I believe that we've got a nice shade of yellow here that would suit him quite well. In terms of what sort of coat he has, he's very smooth. I mean, again, maybe he's waxed his whole body. We will never know. I imagine he's a very hygienic Mr Poopy Butthole. We can maybe go for a slightly lighter yellow. Maybe a little bit darker than this, though. Actually, I kind of like the one we had before. Let's just go for bright yellow. If you're going to go for yellow, go for yellow. Perfect. And then for his coat... we probably don't even need any detail here whatsoever. He is literally just a block of colour, which is a bit weird. And then we're going to go for the details in yellow as well, just to try and get this real yellow thing going on. Okay, so let's just name him Mr Poopy Butthole. There we go. Hoo-wee! Perfect. So let's now go into the outfitter. How exciting! I don't think we've done one of these two-part outfitter ones before, but we're going to do it right now, and I already know instantly the thing that I'm going to try out first, which is the M-Poli. Whoa, oh yeah, look at me, Mr Poopy Butthole. I mean, it's a bit of a shame actually that there's a bit of clipping going on. It's unfortunate in Spore, like, it just doesn't like rounded corners that much. But there's not really much we can do about it. We can give him like a really tall top hat, but in fact it is kind of tall and thin. So if we make it a little bit smaller like this, I think that's pretty good actually. So bearing in mind, again, just ignoring that Spore has clipping issues on rounded corners, I think that's pretty close. It's slightly hovering, but whatever. Okay, and then for his body, I guess we're sort of going to have to come up with something using our imagination here for his top and shorts. For his top half though, I guess we could go for something fairly simple. Maybe just a body aegis, or maybe a crown shoulder. I'm not really sure. It's going to look very vague. It's not going to really look at all like what we want. Okay, so I'm thinking of using these things on the front and back because they're pretty much as close to just a generic shirt that you can get in this game. So I've already put one on the front, and I think it looks okay. I was just playing around and trying to figure out what would look good here. I think this is okay. I mean, it's not really covering that much of his body, let's be honest. But it's covering enough that it sort of gives the impression of a shirt, especially if we put a couple more down the sides. We could even give him a fancy bow tie if we wanted. Maybe that would be better. Yeah, I kind of like that actually. I think this shape here is going to suit the... just undo that. I think I removed the back plate there, which is not what we wanted at all. Just delete that, and yeah, let's make him look fancy. Mr Poopy Butthole, he can look fancy too. There's no reason he can't at all. He's a perfectly suitable man with a top hat. I imagine that he would wear something like this as well, considering he's wearing a top hat. Okay, looks like we actually removed the back plate as well, so let's just put that back on and make this really thin and bring it down a little bit and rotate it inwards. Something like this. And then let's go for his sides. Again, I don't think this is going to look particularly great. I mean, he does actually have a short sleeve sort of polo shirt type thing on, which we can't replicate at all, let's be honest. But we're going to give it a best damn try. I promise you that. Okay, so let's bring these into the sides like this. Maybe make it a little bit taller. Hang on, I've sort of done this the wrong way here, haven't I? Make it smaller like this. I think that's pretty much as close to a top you can get in Spore. which is a bit of a shame. He's sort of like a futuristic Mr Poopy Butthole, which kind of makes sense because this is like a sci-fi setting. He's in Rick and Morty land after all. I'm not sure how we can do the arms. Let's just see if we can. Okay, shoulders. Now let's just go along the theme that he is like a fancy as fuck Mr Poopy Butthole. And we're going to go for something like this. Unfortunately, because we actually did the asymmetric mode on his arms, it means that we're having to kind of, wing it as we go along, let's say. That seems good though. So let's now repeat that on the other side with another one of these like this. I have to see if I can remember what I did. Fortunately, his arms are sort of getting in the way here. But this seems good, and then if we bring it up like so, and then just make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, I think that looks good for his top. Okay, now let's do his shorts. Now his shorts going to look a little bit shit, if I'm honest, because I'm going to have to use the same sort of items as the top half of his body, which is a bit of a shame. Maybe we can do something with these skirts. We can give him a skirt. Real men wear skirts, even Mr Poopy Butthole. He is the realest of men. Okay, I'll have you know. Or we could just give him like a futuristic codpiece. Yeah, sure, okay. Mr Poopy Butthole, you're pretty much as good as you're going to get, my friend. So let's see how you walk about. Oh, it's not so bad. I mean, he does do that weird head-turning thing. And I don't know what really is happening with his mouth. Is that what that black thing sticking through the back of his head is? I have no idea. Poopy! I'm Mr Poopy Butthole. I mean, the impression is about as good as we got to actually building something that resembles Mr Poopy Butthole. But there we are. If you enjoyed today's episode of another Rick and Morty Let's Create in Spore, then please feel free to leave your support in the comment section below by letting me know what you want me to build next time. Also subscribe and let your friends know about the series. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, awkward, goodbye. Awkward.